Learn how to build a better sign and print shop from a few crusty sign guys who've made more mistakes than they care to admit. Conversations and advice on pricing, sales, marketing, workflow, growth, and more. You're listening to the Better Sign Shop Podcast with your hosts, Peter Kourounis, Mike O'Reilly, and Bryant Gillespie.
Before we jump into the episode, I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsor, GCI Digital Imaging, grand format printer to the trade. We talk a lot about outsourcing on the podcast and the importance of having good partners, and GCI Digital Imaging is a good partner to have. Owner TJ Bedacht and his team focus on providing killer customer service just the way grandmother used to make it. If you're interested in learning their approach to business, hop back into the archives to episode 9, where the guys and I interview TJ about customer experience. So if you're looking for a high quality trade printer for banners, wraps, and other printed graphics that your customers throw at you, check out GCI Digital Imaging at printgci.com. All right, guys, welcome to the next edition of the Better Sign Shop Podcast. As always, I am your host, or co-host, Brian Gillespie, and I've got some colleagues of mine. Well, just one colleague today, Mike, the sign design samurai. Riley, are we going with sign design samurai? What are we? Nobody sent me any nicknames between the two, so now I'm kind of pissed. But
just grasping at straws at this point.
Yeah. Why has no one sent us any more nicknames for you? Maybe we just call you. I'm gonna call you like the
Mike,
the sign industry Mercedes Benz or something, since that's been on my mind. I don't know. I was trying to figure out how to tie it back to a car, but whatever.
Let me think about that one. See if I can come up with a good analogy there.
Well, welcome, Mike. Welcome to this episode. We are, I don't know, this is like the 15th episode. Let's do like a quick little like recap. How are you feeling about everything that we've done so far?
I'm actually amazed. I don't know, this sounds terrible to say, but I'm kind of amazed we made it to 15 episodes. I mean, I don't know about you, but I sometimes tend to not stick to things very well. So I'm proud of us that we've made it this far. I mean, I think it's pretty cool.
Let's preface that with I'm enjoying the following. I'm enjoying the podcast. Let's preface that and say that while we've stuck to the podcast, we have not stuck to the schedule that we set for ourselves.
No, that's
not in the slightest.
No, but hey, small victories though. We made it to 15. We have an official real sponsor, and it's so weird to see, scrolling through Facebook and see like random people on one of the sign industry, Facebook groups like, hey, check out this podcast we found. Like, this is great. Like, it's really weird to see that. Like, I know it's not like we're, major celebrities or anything, but it is weird to think that there are people out there that actually like listen to this and maybe even want to hear what we have to say. It's a strange thing. It's new to me. So I guess it's pretty cool.
You're not sure what to do with all your fans that are like stalking you out in Portland.
Yeah. There's just a crowd of people gathered in front of my house waiting for me to come outside to get the mail. Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. I'm pretty proud of us. I think that it's pretty neat. I've enjoyed a lot of the conversations that we've had, and I think that it's just going to get better over time as we can continue to grow, have more listeners and more people that want to be, guests and talk to us. And it's been pretty neat thing to be a part of. Yeah,
I agree. I think that's a great way to sum it up. I don't think and I'll speak for Peter here just because he's not here, but I don't think any of us thought that we would get the response that we have. So if you're listening to this, know, first and foremost, we appreciate you. We plan to continue doing this. We enjoy it. We need more nicknames, number one. Also, spread the word. We do need more nicknames. Spread the word. We also like to interview guests from time to time. Those are enjoyable conversations. So spread the word, keep listening, send us nicknames, not specifically in that order. But
And if anybody has any, topics or things that you'd like to hear us talk about, or discuss, let us know too, because sometimes we struggle to come up with things to talk about. I mean, the sign industry is a lot of topics, but at the same time, there's not very many topics in this industry after a while. So we're always looking for new subject matter to beat on. If anybody has any ideas, we're all ears.
Yeah. I think we're scared to do the customer horror story episode at this point, but maybe around Halloween next year. That'll be
Yeah,
good.
that'd make a really great Halloween episode. Get some spooky music playing in the background, and yeah,
100%.
it's a great idea.
All right, so the topic today, we'll just jump into it. The art department, streamlining the art department. How can we improve efficiency? I feel like efficiency and design are not two words that go together, but how can we streamline the art side of this? As we've talked about in like past episodes here recently, design is one of the most important pieces of running a successful sign shop. Unless you just don't do that, you outsource it to like a sign designer, like a freelance one per se. But I digress. Very big piece of the puzzle, how can we make that better? Mike, you're a designer. I'm sure you got some thoughts here. I'm ex-design at this point. I don't even open Illustrator on a weekly basis anymore. So
I'm so envious sometimes of you that you escape that black hole that just sucks you in and doesn't let you out. Yeah, I think the number one thing to improve efficiency in your design department above all else is just get better at communication and get better at, creating that design brief to tell your designer what you need, whether that's an in-house designer or, a third-party freelancer that you use, or hell, even if you're your own designer, learn to,
talk to yourself.
Really, yeah, right. No, seriously. I mean, there's merit to that actually. Like, some people just like, all right, I'm going to design a sign without putting any thought into it, and then 4 hours later, they're still struggling. Designers aren't mind readers, and I think a lot of people think that we are. And you can't just tell us, hey, design a sign that goes on this building and expect the outcome that we create to be what you envision in your head. Design is very, very subjective, and every designer is going to approach something a little bit differently. So, clearly conveying to the designer what the parameters of the project are, what the client needs are, what problems this design is trying to solve, I think are really important. I think that last point is probably the most important, and it's probably the least understood, but really, really drilling down. And we talked about this with Dan Antonelli a little bit as well, that, and I say this all the time to, I probably sound like I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but we're in the marketing industry, we're in the advertising industry. And even though we're designing, what can sometimes be a fairly utilitarian thing like a channel letter sign, it's still that business's primary means of advertising. And so thinking about it from that perspective, and this is an advertising tool, how is this going to help this business is important. And, if there's a sales rep or project manager between the designer and the client, that sales rep becomes the funnel for all the information to the designer. So really, really getting that communication dialed in between the designer and the project leader is the single most important thing I think you can do to make your design department more efficient, and then some. I mean, and I think that's where a lot of places really drop the ball too. I mean, as a freelance designer, I work for a lot of sign companies around the country, and still on a fairly regular basis, like I'll get a screenshot of like a 3/4 angle of a building from Google Street View, and just like, I need a sign on this wall.
Make it happen.
Okay.
Make it fun.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, I can definitely put a sign on that wall, but more information would probably be helpful so that sign does what it's intended to do and doesn't waste your client's money. Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing for me.
I think that's great advice. We're really curious to hear what our guest has to say on the matter today. We've got Brian Saetre from ArtworkIQ and the new project they're working on, TaskOS, which is like design automation. I'm sure he'll tell us more about it. Brian has built a large artwork provider. So they provide artwork services at ArtworkIQ, like redrawing, setup, artwork automation, vectorization, conversion, kind of all those things. So they are focused on like the production art. So and I'm curious to hear like how they have streamlined that process and kind of what goes into that. There's like the creative side of design, and then you have like the production aspect as well. So I think this will be a good conversation with you, the super creative, and I would say you're pretty efficient at this point as well. But I wonder if there's some more tips we can get out of it.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this one. I mean, design is a weird animal because it does require you to be efficient and come up with ways to do things faster and quicker and easier. But at the same time, because it is wholly creative as well, you can't really force that or rush that. So you're kind of weird, and this is weird like middle ground between like I've got to be as efficient as I can to get this done fairly quickly, but also I also need to take my time so that the design looks good. So I'm really excited to see how this guy's kind of like married those two together. You know, especially like you said on the production end of things. I mean, you really can't automate just creativity, right? Like that's not something that will. Yeah, you can't do that. But there's so many like ancillary components to design that suck up a lot of time. And that's really where the efficiency comes into play. Like recreating a logo. I mean, on a daily basis, I get low quality, screenshots and JPEGs of somebody's logo, and I've got to figure out an efficient way to recreate those. And if I've got 3 or 4 of those to do in a day, even if they only take 30 minutes, 45 minutes a piece to run through Illustrator and redraw, that's still a couple hours, 3 hours a day where I'm not being creative. I'm just trying to get something done so that I can be creative. So automating that,
right,
coming up with a process for it, I think is really cool. So I'm excited to see what this guy's up to.
Yeah, let's bring him on without further ado. All right, guys. So we are back with Brian Saetre, our guest for today, to talk about streamlining the art and design department. Brian has like 3 different companies, and I would not introduce you in the proper way, Brian. So why don't you give us like the 5-cent introduction?
All right. Thanks, Brian. So I guess I can start. This could be a history lesson, actually. This story sort of starts after World War II in 1947. My grandfather
I like
got
where
back
this is
from,
going.
Yeah, my grandfather got back from the war. And my understanding is that at the time, because of the war and also just because of technology advances, there were a lot of new innovations in plastics. So my grandfather saw an opportunity there and started a screen printing company for printing plastics, which led to my dad and both of my uncles getting into the printing world as well. And then that led to me growing up with it, like basically being surrounded by a bunch of printers. Back then, they were doing a lot of large format stuff. So my dad tells kind of a funny story about how my grandfather, who was pretty short, would only hire people who were like 6'4", 6'5", because they didn't have arms long enough to like move the squeegee across the huge, huge pieces they were printing. So
that's funny.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
I definitely fall into the short category, so I wouldn't have made it. Wouldn't have made the cut.
No, not as a screen printer, but yeah. So I guess my dad has like memories of these giants that would just like kind of throw him up in the air and like play catch with him in the screen printing shop. So
that sounds awesome.
Yeah, so I definitely grew up with that in my family's culture. So yeah, both uncles work there, and actually my dad and my uncle Ray ended up buying it from their dad. So they owned it, and about 1996 they sold it to a manufacturing company that they're working really closely with. And my dad didn't love being an employee, which I totally understand. I've never been one myself, and asked me if we wanted to go into business together. So this was like when I think I was in 8th grade. I was like 14, 15. Was I in 7th grade? Yeah, something like that. This was like right at the beginning of when people were using the internet for business, and it wasn't just like academics. And I mean, there were websites, obviously, but we had one of the first websites, put one of the first websites online for ordering bumper stickers and decals and stuff. We got listed at the top of the search engines at the time, which I'm dating myself a little, but it was
Lycos and
Lycos. We were way up there on Lycos. We dominated Excite. What was it called? Hotbot or one of the other ones, and InfoSeek. InfoSeek was like the one I really kind of nailed.
I remember that one.
So we had like more work than we could possibly like even quote, which was pretty cool. Pretty cool way to get a company started. So this is Imprographics. The last company that my grandfather started was Screen Print Products Corporation, and I don't think it goes under that name anymore. But so yeah, we started Imprographics. Pretty soon, let's see, like some major stuff we did. We did a big project for the Menards racing team really early on, which was kind of fun. And then for NATO, so we printed how many hundreds of thousands? It was so many little pink badges that went all the NATO soldiers badges, like these little stickers that went on their badges.
That's cool.
So just reminiscing a little here. Maybe I'm getting into too much
Yeah.
detail, but
No, that's fine.
yeah.
We tend to we are not afraid to ramble here. So
I noticed your podcast tend to be on the long side. Actually, I was like, I'm kind of good at rambling, but am I going to be able to ramble for an hour and 15 minutes or more?
it goes
we'll see.
quick.
I think I'm probably up for it, actually. So kind of digitized the place, built a database that they're still using today, which is crazy and scary, but it got pretty into programming, coding. And then when I went to college, I started what would become ArtworkIQ, which is one of the companies that I'm like actively participating in right now. And what we do is we work with lots and lots of different industries, but a big part of that is the sign industry. And we take any images they get from their customers that aren't usable, and we do whatever needs to be done to make them usable. More and more, we're doing like data-driven stuff with like mapping and Power BI and Tableau and different programs like that, which probably isn't relevant to this. But yeah, we kind of got our start. We still do a lot of work for sign makers, engravers, that sort of industry.
Yeah, that's
so
always a problem. Was always our biggest headache at our shop was like getting proper files, or like if we've got to create something. So totally understand you there. Mike was just saying before you came on that like his creative time is reduced every single day because of like crappy files that he's got to recreate or something like that.
Right. So our idea is, you tell us what you're using to make this thing. If you want to go into enough detail, you can like tell us exactly what like press you're going to use and all the tolerances, and we'll make sure that like every image comes through just the way you need it for that particular process. So it's kind of like a black box you throw garbage art into and get good art out of. It's a kind of one way of thinking about it. But on the inside of that,
nice.
I had to build an ERP, like an enterprise. What does that even stand for? Enterprise
resource planning.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry for pointing at you like that. It seemed kind of weird. But
That's all right.
yeah, I built one of those. I guess that's the best way to describe it anyway. To handle all the orders, take all the payments, keep track of all the orders. We built an API so bigger customers of ours can integrate with it. And also on the artwork side, having thousands of customers, you really need to be organized. So lots of standard operating procedures and lots of scripts. And what we found in time is that became pretty difficult to manage because the standard operating procedures were in one place in our ERP, and the scripts and the automations were sometimes you would just manually run the script. You go into Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop and file, select script, and then run it. For some companies, we would like build it into a little plugin where like there was a whole bunch of steps for each one. But the fact that the scripting, the automation, and the SOPs were separate, I think was kind of a problem. So that's what gave me the idea for TaskOS, which is kind of my current passion and my baby, where we so the software, you create your SOPs in the software, and then instead of having people manually go through and follow all of the steps, what you can do is you can automate certain steps. So this currently integrates with the Adobe Suite, and we're also making integrations with artificial intelligence software like OpenAI's DALL-E, ChatGPT, and other systems there. So it's kind of this.
What about Corel? Mike is
thinking about it. A lot of our customers do use Corel Draw, especially it's quite common with screen printing customers and pretty common with sign makers too. So
it's like a whole different tool set on the back end, right?
It is
like making it work.
It is very different. There are ways of scripting things in there, but I haven't actually done it yet, honestly. But it is definitely pretty high on our list of apps to integrate because cool. it is used in the graphics industry, and that's sort of where we're starting out with our offering our automations because it's where I'm most familiar and can kind of offer the most value, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it was interesting how we ran across each other. Like I think it was James Sowers that introduced us.
It was.
I had done some work with James. He was like, "Hey, you got to check out this guy. I know you're in the sign and print space. Like he's doing some really cool automation stuff. I know that's up your alley." And I took a look, and I was like, "This is really smart. Just like bringing both pieces together." Mm-hmm. And like we've talked about this before, and it's like some of the things that we're doing at Better Sign Shop is like, let's bring all these pieces together. And like you got, instead of having the SOPs over here and then like the business end, like the scripts, like you mentioned, or like, I don't want to have a doc up with the SOP and then try to follow it over here. I just want it to be in context.
Mhm.
So to me, that makes a lot of sense.
And a nice side effect is if you're using like template-based workflows, it'll pull up your templates automatically, and it'll even switch apps for you. So if you have a step that's happening in a different app, it'll pull the app up for you when you need it. So you don't even have to think about that, like thinking about opening it and going to where it is. I know it sounds like a small thing, but as a matter of workflow, it's amazing. I really like it.
Yeah. Mike,
that's
what's
really
your initial impression? What's your initial take here?
I mean, I'm just a lowly designer, so a lot of what you guys are talking about is a bit above my pay grade.
There's nothing lowly about design. I am not a designer, so I really appreciate what you do. It's like magic.
It actually, it mostly is magic in witchcraft. That's about the truest statement you'll ever hear about design. Is it is mostly magic. No, it's really fascinating how you are trying to tie all that together. It's really cool. I will be waiting for a CorelDRAW integration for sure.
You're a CorelDRAW user, okay?
Yeah, sort of. Unfortunately, I was an Adobe fanboy for most of my career, but the reality is CorelDRAW is just
Hey, Mike,
significantly better.
you keep trailing off the mic.
Oh, sorry.
We got to get you a different mic, dude.
I know.
I'm sorry to make you deep throat it. I really am.
I'm trying not to, but it's awkward and it's not a natural. Do you want me to go back and say that again?
No, it's okay.
Okay.
I think I followed. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Careful listening is required, but I think I got it.
Yeah. The gain's up all the way too. Yeah. I was an Adobe, power user for years and years, but the reality is, especially when you enter into the larger electrical sign arena, which is where most of my work is, CorelDRAW just objectively beats the pants off of Illustrator. It's a terrible, clunky, like almost amateur hour program in a lot of regards, and it's got a learning curve to it. But when you understand it, it's actually it's significantly better than Illustrator at a lot of things, and so it's a very commonly used program on the sign side of the industry.
Yeah, I've certainly seen it used a lot, but I guess I know a little bit less about why for electrical signs. Is that something that's appealing to you?
It's almost more. It's like rolling a CAD design software like AutoCAD or something into Illustrator. It does a lot better with multi-page documents than Illustrator and templating pages. It has built-in native scaling and dimensioning tools, which Illustrator does not. To achieve what you can do natively in CorelDRAW, you've got to use Illustrator. You have to use Photoshop, InDesign, and also a third-party plugin called CAD Tools, which is horrifically inefficient if you have to start using all those side by side. Okay. You know what I mean? And the big piece of the puzzle there is CAD Tools, which is the plugin which gives you scaling and dimensioning in Illustrator. And I'm hesitant to like shit all over a piece of software, but it deserves it. It's truly awful. It works half the time. It doesn't work half the time. It crashes constantly. They try their best, but it's not that good, and it's really inefficient to use, which is the big reason why a lot of shops have moved over to CorelDRAW from Illustrator, because the workflow in Illustrator to create a kind of technical drawing is just it's inefficient compared to Illustrator. And there's a lot of guys out there that will like hardcore disagree with me on that and say, oh, there's no reason for CorelDRAW. You can do it all in Illustrator just fine. But when you're burning through a lot of work, a high volume of work, every second you can save counts. And
absolutely,
back to the whole efficiency, automation conversation. Yeah, it makes a big difference. And CorelDRAW is just, it's better. It just is. And a lot of people aren't willing to give CorelDRAW a fair try, and they will argue with you till you're blue in the face that you're wrong. But.
Yeah, I probably know. I'm not sure if I know anything better than I know Adobe Illustrator, like inside and out, like creating automations for it, like dealing with the objects that it creates in code, all that. But I just know too many very fervent CorelDRAW supporters to write it off completely. And I do use CorelDRAW every single day, but not like you do. So for me, its clunkiness is just a little more annoying.
Yeah.
The clunkiness will never go away either. Like it's annoying to me too.
They make it clunkier, don't they? I seem to remember older versions being less clunky.
Every version is clunkier than the last. I mean, it's not a great piece of software, but what it does, its tool set is what's really good in it. And I mean, if Illustrator had native scaling and native dimensioning tools built into it and manage multiple page documents better, I would abandon CorelDRAW in a heartbeat, and a lot of people would, but it's never going to happen. I mean, Illustrator's focus is the creative side, the drawing side of things, right? And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
where
I built my
CorelDRAW's
own
focus.
simple dimensioning plugin actually because it lacked
Boom.
what I needed.
There you
If you
go.
came out with like a full suite of tools for Illustrator that had scaling and dimensioning and like real CAD level,
Mhm.
tools, even on a basic level, like CAD tools plugin gets into some pretty in-depth crap. But I mean, if it was just like a fairly basic plugin, but did scaling and dimensioning really well, you would sell.
You would switch? You would
I
switch,
would,
Mike?
yeah, I actually would. I totally would.
Oh, hey, that's a challenge.
So,
Too many
yeah,
too many business ideas in my head right now.
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
there's,
you've
there's
already
another
got
one
it
for you.
off, right?
I will insert that one in there for you, but I don't know if it's going to make it to the top.
It's just what you want to
Also,
mess with, right?
I do have experience with CAD, but it's like I might not be the man for the job. Might not be the man for the job. It's mostly
Gotcha.
converting stuff to CAD formats and testing them, but not a lot of creating stuff in CAD. I mean, back in high school, I took a CAD class, but that doesn't exactly make me an expert.
That's how I got into the industry. But I
High
think
school?
like the first I was in a CAD class, and like the teacher in the CAD class had a large format printer, and I had just done like the graphic design class the last semester. We made it through the CAD book, and he was like, "Oh, like, hey, let's go cut some vinyl and print some stuff on this large format printer." So I actually did more graphic design in the CAD class than I did in the graphic design class.
Hmm.
But I haven't been able to shake it since. So interesting fact. But I think like the first question I've got for you, Brian, is like, how did you transition from like, hey, we're doing a print shop or a print business, so, signs and graphics and stuff like that, into like the ArtworkIQ side?
Well, I went to college pretty far away, so I couldn't bring the printers with me. So all I really had was my graphics ability and my marketing ability. So since I mostly did the graphics at Impro,
Mhm.
anyway, like that was my biggest thing, that and the marketing. It wasn't really much of a transition. I just sort of learned it as I went, and really, really pretty natural switch when I went to college and started ArtworkIQ.
Gotcha.
Is
So you're
that
just
yeah what you're looking for? Okay.
yeah, definitely. So you just like started slinging artwork in like the dorm room or something.
Yeah, it was a couple years after I started, but
Okay.
yeah, I think I just set up a website, some Google AdWords, and printers started showing up. We were frustrated with just the really unfortunate artwork they received from customers.
What I don't know. I hate to date you and us as well, but like, what's the time frame on this? Like year
Uh,
wise.
I started this in 2003 or four. I think four,
2003 or
2004.
four. Okay. I was just trying to
Yeah.
think of like what like the internet situation looked like.
Oh,
Yeah, like transferring files back and forth, all that stuff.
I remember like going between classes and looking at my flip phone and trying to use the internet on this flip phone, which was like a pretty advanced feature at the time.
Yeah.
And also back then, not no one, but most people had no idea what like even Photoshop was. People, they didn't know how to use Illustrator, so like everything was like a logo made in Microsoft Paint by somebody's brother or cousin or something. So there were just so many bad pieces of art out there that were totally useless for just about anything.
Right.
So there was a lot of that kind of work out there, and I think these days most professional designers hopefully are making vector files, but you still find ones who don't.
Mike can speak of that, I'm sure.
Yeah,
He's got
yeah,
that nervous grin on his face.
oh, did I just call you out?
Oh no, I don't.
He's calling out his clients.
I'm all for punching designers in the throat that do that. But no, I get logos designed in Photoshop fairly regularly from like big agencies. I don't, it boggles my mind.
Mm.
But you got to roll with it.
Yeah. I
So how long? Oh, go ahead.
I find I'm seeing that less and less these days, but that might also be the fact that we have a lot more competitors. I think when we started, we had like 3 competitors anybody had heard of, and now there must be hundreds, like maybe 1,000.
Yeah. I still get. I haven't worked in a sign and print shop in 7 or 8 years, and I still get like digitizing requests from like folks international, like, hey, we could digitize your stuff, and I'm like, I don't even do embroidery anymore. Like, I don't do it. But hey, like, how soon or how long did it take before you were overwhelmed and you're like, okay, like I've got to Like how does this scale?
So I got pretty fast at this work. So I'm trying to remember. I think I hired my first employee maybe 2 years later.
Mhm.
That didn't work out super well. Tried again. That didn't work out super well. It turns out I was pretty bad at hiring. But the
I
one
think he's
after
a
that,
sign guy, Mike. Like
is this a common story? And
Yeah, you're a sign maker through and through. You just don't know it yet.
it just, yeah, I just need to start making more signs.
Yeah.
But the next employee I hired, he's still with me, so he's been with the company for 14, 15 years or something.
How many employees total do you have now?
So I have 4
Okay.
now. We had a few more in the past, but the pandemic was a little hard on our business. But that was, yeah. So things are kind of getting back up to speed now. So they're all much more
so
artistic
like
than me,
how
which
many
is quite
pieces of
handy.
like art do you guys like process on like a single day? I'm trying to get like an idea of like the scale. Like I
Yeah.
imagine it's quite a bit.
So at our peak, we were doing something like 80 a day, I would say.
Wow.
These days, it's much more complex stuff. Like one of our big projects we're working on now is digitizing all of the blueprints into data that can be used in Microsoft Business Analytics software. So each of those projects takes like hours, and we have like, how many do we have in the queue? I don't know, maybe 250 more facilities to do or something. So on a daily basis, we might only do like 30, maybe on a good day 40 projects now, but they tend to be much more complicated. Like some of them are used for manufacturing. So we work with one of the major sports equipment makers in the country, and they'll customize them. So if you ever find yourself lucky enough to be in like a major NFL team's gyms or like a major college's gyms, probably we had a hand in helping them decorate the weights and cut the logos into the equipment and stuff like that.
That's cool.
That's really cool.
So some of that is kind of, or it is overlaps with signage stuff because there's like metal fabrication involved, which is sometimes the signage thing as well.
Yeah, definitely. Mike, you got any questions at this point?
I'm trying to think of questions. Yeah, I'm trying to think of how this ties into automation and how. But like I said, it's not really my area of expertise, so I'm not sure what questions
Well,
to ask.
like here's what I think is interesting of like and I want to hear like Brian, like, okay, like what are your tips for like automating this? But like the thing that we were talking about before you jumped on is this intersection of like like producing signs and graphics. At the end of the day, it's an exercise in like constrained creativity almost. Like, yes, we want to be creative and produce awesome stuff, but there's like a fixed number, a fixed limit of time that we can spend on any one project.
Mm-hmm.
So like how does creativity and efficiency, like how do those come together? Because for the life of me, when I was a designer, and I'm like a recovering designer is what I like to call myself.
Yeah.
Like I could never be like super creative and super efficient. It was usually like one or the other. Like, hey, you need a logo today. I can slap you together something that's going to look okay. It'll be professional looking, but it's not going to be like great at all.
Yeah, that's a good question because there's that old kind of saying in the sign industry, you can have it good, fast, or cheap, but you can only pick two. So I want it fast and cheap, but it won't be good, or I want it good and fast, but it won't be cheap. That is it's a constant struggle that we face as designers is how do we bridge that and provide the client with good, fast, and cheap. Cheap is a terrible word, I guess. Cost efficient, I guess I should say.
Well, we have the same saying in the coding industry, software development, exactly the same.
Yeah.
Concepts apply there. So with design, like where it's mostly you being creative and thinking and playing around, the efficiency really mostly comes from like the export process. So if you need the logo in a whole bunch of different formats with or without backgrounds, after you make a tweak, if you want everything to be edited, like all the different versions you've created, like maybe the black and white version or the bug or whatever, to be edited to go along with the main logo, you can automate that sort of stuff. So I find that like adding structure to the creative process can be handy, but I'm not a creative myself, so I'm mostly working with other creatives doing this work. And
I think that's why this is very interesting to me, is like like you have built a set of tools and a company around enabling other like designers to be more efficient. So like
Hmm.
you've got like Mike is the designer. You're the guy who's supporting the designers. So it's like two different takes on the similar topic. I think that would be interesting for me to hear you both kind of expand on.
So when you're designing for signage or designing for print, a lot of times the design part itself it does tend to be a little harder to automate because you're not following the same steps every time for a recurring process, but the finishing and the starting points are much easier to automate because you automatically pull from a template, you pull in your customer's information. For example, we work with a clothing company that's using TaskOS right now to pull templates and then create variations for like I think more than 200 NCAA teams based on data they have stored in a database spreadsheet app called Airtable.
I'm
So
familiar with
the
Airtable.
design of the templates happens upfront, and then it's set up and tuned so it can be used with the software, and then the automations happen, and then at the end of the process of creating all the different variations, the automations then help with things like putting the images on T-shirts and getting it ready for showing to a licensing department, and then soon also actually submitting it to the licensing department and keeping track of whether they say yes or no, and uploading images for a website to Shopify or some other system like that. So that's kind of where the automation tends to come in. Although that's changing a little bit now that we're able to integrate with software like DALL-E. If you're familiar with OpenAI's image generation software.
Yeah, I've been also looking at MidJourney is the other one that I've looked
Mid,
at. I spit out a couple renders for Mike from it.
MidJourney is amazing. It creates really, really beautiful artwork.
Yeah,
Like the kind of artwork you would have 5 years ago paid a designer $700 or something to do, and it happens in like 2 minutes. It's crazy.
yeah. Let's save that one for. I think that could be like a good closer there. But like Mike, like does this track for you? Like where do you spend your time? Like you sit down, you're designing a sign. Like where is most of your time spent?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. Like a really good example that I could see this applying to is when I do like large interior sign packages, like ADA signs with Braille and everything on them. If you have a large office building, say with 200 rooms, the Americans with Disabilities Act says that every single door in that building must have a sign on it, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're designing one of these large interior sign packages, you've got say 6 or 8 different sign types: restroom signs and general room signs, conference rooms, office, right there. So the creative process in that is designing how each one of those signs looks and feels. And that I don't know that there's any way to automate that process, right? Like it's design. But
yeah, I mean, with this artificial intelligence, it's not there yet, but I'd probably look out down the road pretty soon, actually. But you still have to know how to use the software, which is not particularly straightforward.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm skeptical that that's ever fully going to take away what, especially with design like that, where there's a lot of restrictions. I mean, like designing an ADA sign is different than designing like a big pylon sign out by the road, because there's a lot of guardrails in place with the ADA code that says this, it's got to have, this type of background. It's got to be this finish. There's got to be this percentage of contrast. There's a lot of specific rules and then it has to look good as well, which is where I don't, I mean, AI can probably, achieve something that complies with the rules, but whether or not it's going to look good, I question if it will at least get there soon.
You won't do it with like off the shelf, like going into MidJourney and say, hey, make me an ADA compliant signage package. That's not happening now. However, you could train a model to do that. So if you're a little deeper into the tech, like I'm pretty sure if you gave me a number of months, I could probably make that more or less happen.
He's too much like me, Mike. like give me 2 weeks, I'll build it.
Oh, not 2 weeks.
I was just thinking that,
but
yeah.
But like so designing the individual signs, like what they look like, is the creative process. But then once that's approved by the client, then you've got to go in and you've got to lay out each individual sign. So in a in a building, a large office building, you could have say 500, 600, 700 total signs, even though there's only 6 or 8 designs. Then you got to apply that to each different location in the building, and that's where automation would be super handy if I could just upload the spreadsheet list of every sign type and the sign message, and automate that process of laying out each individual message or each layout for each sign. That's the final step in the process of that, and doing that takes twice as long as the creative does.
Yeah.
And it's if I'm just designing the look and feel of the sign family, that can be anywhere from 5 to 30, 40 hours to do that. But then to expand that, depending on the size of the full scope of the project, to actually do all the individual message layouts, then could add another 20, 30, 40 hours to the project to do that, because it's all manual. I mean, I've got to copy and paste, type in what the next one is, and
So,
I think in CorelDRAW there's a way you can kind of automate that a little bit by doing a data merge with a spreadsheet, but it's CorelDRAW and it's not that good. And
is it is it something you could straight template, Mike, or is it like, okay, like here's the restroom sign. Okay, this one has got like an extra bit of copy on it, and I got to manually tweak that.
Yeah, having to manually tweak them is kind of rare. I mean, usually in every sign package, there's a few that you've got to kind of manually mess with a little bit, but 98% of them are pretty straightforward and could be templated for sure. And yeah, it's a huge time suck to do that part of it, because it's just busy work. There's no creativity to it at all. It's just plugging in data and copying and pasting, and automating something like that would save an insane amount of time for me. I mean, that's the first example that comes to my mind, but there's a lot of things like that in what I do that could potentially
that's a very good example, because no artist is going to be mad that you're taking that work away from them. When you automate it, you just sit there and watch it happen on your screen, depending on how you wanted to set it up, using one of our systems or even some other systems that are available. Most other systems that I know about will just kind of go through and just plop them all out into a folder, and then you can go through and edit them if you feel like it. Our system will allow you to like edit them as they're being generated if you would like to. So if there's any tweaks you need to make, in this case, it may just be almost completely automatable, and you could kind of just dump the output into a folder and do quality assurance on them real quick.
No, the trick is it has to be compiled into like a full drawing set for approval, because once they approve the design of the signs, then they've got to go through and they want to see, and sometimes it can be 100+ page document of every one of these things laid out.
Oh, okay.
And there'll be 6, 8, 10, however many you can fit on a page, sometimes 20 on a page with each individual, and that's really like the time consuming part. Well, part of the time consuming part, and then exporting those as individual production ready files. Obviously, on top of that, becomes another headache and hurdle. But just creating that, it's basically creating that proof document that has every sign message laid out to scale it sucks.
That's pretty straightforward. If you wouldn't mind the artwork going into Adobe Illustrator real quick and then popping back into CorelDRAW,
I can make that work.
That would be pretty straightforward. Right now, that's pretty typical of most of the work we're doing with this plugin.
Interesting. Yeah, that kind of automation. I mean, that's kind of automation that I think would free up designers to be much more creative. I mean, as designers, we're always racing the clock, and we're trying to split the difference between being creative and being efficient. And really, like, the only, when we're talking about true creativity in design, and not like busy work and production design, but like actually trying to be creative in designing something. The sacrifice there is you've got to think down the line and think, okay, when I get done with this, then I've got to do this, and this. So I've got to really hurry on the creative and maybe cut corners, or maybe the quality there is sacrificed. So things that remove that those other tasks from a designer's plate, so the designer is freed up to just focus solely on the creativity, I think would be huge, not just from a time thing, but also for a time standpoint, but also from quality of design standpoint. The more time a designer has, the better the design is going to be.
If you finish creating all the variations and then they decide, oh wait, oops, sorry, we forgot, we need a registered mark or trademark in this corner, or we need something else tweaked. You probably had that happen, right?
Oh, that's a sore subject.
Yeah, well,
no, I'm dealing with it right now on like a package that has like 2,000 different units in it, and like everything's laid out, everything's done and ready to go to production. Like, oh yeah, we need to make this one minor, and like in the customer's mind, it's like a really simple tweak, right? Like there's nothing to it
Yeah.
at all to their mind, but when you have to go back and apply that tweak to every one of those 2,000 signs, that's
It's not
tons of
quite as
time.
bad when you have to just click a button to say rebuild,
Right.
and then it rebuilds it.
yeah.
Maybe it
Yeah.
takes 15 minutes or something, but yeah,
But yeah. I mean, I'm looking at a week's worth of work to do it
yeah.
manually, and that's
So yeah,
and it's billable time for me. So on one hand, it's like, well, cool, I get to charge you more, and I'll take your money all day long. But on the other hand, it's like that really tanks your schedule as well, and it really spreads you thin as a designer for
And it
something
just
that
doesn't move the needle, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's nice to have that billable time that you're going to get, but in the grand scheme of things, it's more important to be more efficient and get more work out the door than it is to just keep grabbing hours out of the air because they're there.
yeah.
I think where one of the things that I'm really curious about is like, when do you reach for the automation versus just like knuckling under and like getting it done, right? Because I know like I dabble in development. Let's say that, Mike. That's probably pretty fair. Mike would say I'm like an actual developer. I'm kind of like on the fence. Like if somebody was like, "Hey, I want to pay you to develop this," I would be like, I don't, I'm not comfortable with that. But if it's something I've tackled on my own, yeah, great. But sometimes like I put on that lazy developer like hat, and I'm like, oh, like I could automate this really. It wouldn't take too long to automate, and then I wouldn't have to do it again. But there's also this balance of like I'm just overthinking it. Like it's going to take me like 20 minutes to do this, and then I probably won't have to do it again for like 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you find yourself doing the same thing again and again, that's when you want to take a look at automating it. In the meantime, it might be worth writing some notes, like a skeleton of a standard operating procedure if you think it might come up again. But if it's just a one-time thing, we will automate projects like that. Like that, I was telling you about that the blueprint product for the data analytics software. Just
Sure.
because there's hundreds of them, and the automations are pretty easy to do, and doing them without the automations is you're almost always going to screw it up a little bit, and it takes a while. So there's kind of a cost benefit analysis there. But if it's going to take you 20 minutes to do it manually, and you don't think it's something you're going to have to do again, then I wouldn't. Even if it take me 20 minutes to do the automation, I probably wouldn't usually bother. I would just do it manually.
Yeah. Like,
It's really
what's been your experience in the past? Like, as you're growing, like the ArtworkIQ side of like, when do we develop the SOP? And then like, can you like speak to like a specific example beyond like this blueprint project of like, okay, hey, we noticed we were getting X, Y, and Z every single week, and then we said, okay, here's what the SOP looks like, blah blah blah. Like, okay, now we need to do an automation for this.
Yeah, let me see if I can think of a good example. So there's one I've been doing for a while. I've had this customer, I don't know, like 15 years or something. So I've been doing this process for, like quite a long time. And I've gotten really, really, really good at it. Really fast, don't have to think. But it still takes about 45 minutes of my time. And since I'm trying to build another company, it's a little distracting. So recently we started building that into an SOP, only to realize that there's like, I don't know, 47 steps or something like that. It's just, I've been doing it so long, I don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah.
But it really does need to be something that my employees can do. And it's different enough for most of the work. What it is we work with a ceramics manufacturer, and they have custom monograms. So if people get married, they might have their initials monogrammed on it. So it's like fine china, that sort of thing. So we have to lay these monograms out on a layout, and then apply a cover coat, because they have to be then applied to the china and then fired in an oven. So it's a sort of a repetitive process, and there's a lot of quality control involved. We also have to create the monograms in like one of there's 24 styles or something. So there's like a lot to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've decided it's time to go through the process of automating that, and we're about halfway done, I would say. But right now it's mostly manual, and then what we do usually is we have employees go through the manual process first a little bit so they understand it, And then we automate we discover which parts take the most time or cause the most potential for like making errors, making mistakes. And then we automate those steps first. And what ends up happening is you take a procedure that started as like a 40 something step procedure and you like condense it down so that a lot of those steps like become one chunk of code that runs automatically that the employee doesn't have to see. So it ends up becoming a much easier thing to teach to new employees. If someone goes on vacation, like if I ever go on vacation, I always in the past I've always found myself doing that project because like it's took too long to kind of master it manually. That's kind of maybe that's not the maybe it's a little bit of an odd example. I guess the rule of thumb is like if we have an employee and a customer and they're a printing company who's ordered something a few times, we'll do more than just like write down what file format they need and what they're doing with it, and we'll go into it and like set up exports and use templates to get things a little bit automated there. And if it's something that's a little bit out of the ordinary and there's more steps involved than in like a typical just sort of draw it as a vector, set spot colors, save it as EPS 8 or whatever, send it. If it's more complicated than that, if we find ourselves, I guess honestly, it's when it starts to become annoying. That's when we automate it. That's kind of a rambling answer to your question.
No, that's great to like watch you go through it because
it kind of
to me
comes
that's
down to it.
Yeah, I mean, that's I feel like that will track with a lot of listeners of like. Not just artwork, but like, hey, when do we need an SOP for this? Or it's got to the point where like, hey, I could do this faster than anyone, but I'm trying to go on vacation or I don't want to do this anymore. And hey, like Mike, maybe you could speak to this. Like your design business is exploding. You're trying to bring on other designers. Like how do you codify what you do for somebody else so that the results, like the end result, is similar? Like what are you doing personally on that front?
Nothing. Nah, any of my any of my designers, like, they've got to know what they're doing when it comes to sign design. I can't hold anybody's hand and tell somebody how to design a pylon sign or channel letter sign. Like you got to know, and I'm using Many Requests, which is an online kind of project management app that brings everybody together. But at the end of the day, I mean, because so much of it's creative, I wouldn't even know where to begin to turn any of that into an SOP yet. It's something that I haven't put any brain power to, and probably should. So thank you for that.
Yep. Thanks for calling you out. Like,
yeah. Nothing
I mean, I see that all the time, right? Like, or well, I won't say I see it all the time, but how many shop owners have we talked to, Mike, where it's like, hey, I want to like measure and get more out of the design department, like how like production, okay, yeah, like we could go in and measure like, okay, throughput, like, hey, you made $100,000 worth of signs this month, or you made 50 signs this month. But like on design, it's it being a creative process, but also with a production focus. Like you still got to get it out the door. Like what are the standards there? Or like how do you not just like rely on the designer's design ability? Like you got to be able to produce repeatable results, right?
Yeah, and I don't know how that's achieved other than just like purely talented designers doing what they do best. I mean, when I was in the art department at Security Signs, I would say they probably had the most efficient art department that I've kind of seen. And they used a Smartsheet tracking tool that they built to to put a few KPIs and metrics on what's going on. The design director would review every incoming project, and she would determine an estimated amount of time it would take that be put on the Smartsheet, and then the designer would have to track actual time. And there's in that data eventually was used to say, okay, for these types of signs, they're taking this amount of time, so we need to allot this on average. But design is so subjective at the end of the day, especially when you're talking about the creative end of design. There's a limit to what you can, I don't know, standardize and turn into a process with it, I think, because in my opinion, the more you do that, in a way, you're kind of kneecapping designers a bit, and you're taking away their creative freedom by forcing them into too much of a process or a box. But
Yeah.
does that make sense?
Yeah, that tracks with me. That's the whole crux here is like, this process is fairly creative, but like we also got to get work done, and it needs to be done in a certain allotted time.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Brian, like what metrics do you guys track? Like every piece of artwork that you guys work on the ArtworkIQ side, like do you track time spent against each job or?
Really, I should be better at tracking these metrics.
Okay.
So with TaskOS, that's a feature we're adding.
Okay, cool.
We do have like some rudimentary time tracking for projects that are billable by the hour.
Okay.
And then we have ways of looking at the data in the database and seeing how long, like when someone started a project and when they fulfilled it and when it went to QC. But honestly, I don't have a dashboard for that data right now, so we're not using it for business analytics or anything like that at this point. But that's a good idea. I should be doing that for sure.
Well, I it's more just like a gauge. If like you're processing 80 pieces of artwork on a given day, and you don't have this data, then I'm just trying to like make Mike feel better about his situation.
To be clear, we do mostly have the data. It's just we don't look at it.
Hey, right.
That's probably the problem with data
sometimes.
collection in general. I mean, I wonder how many companies out there track those kind of data points and KPIs, but don't actually do anything, whether it's design or production or anything else. Like, I would imagine that tracking the data and collecting the data is one thing, but actually analyzing it, putting the results of that into action is probably where most people fall short.
That is one of our goals for TaskOS, is to make the data available, because you can see exactly, you will be able to see, we don't have this implemented yet, exactly how long it takes people to do each step. So you can see where you could pull up the dashboard once that's done and see like, wow, it's taking artists a lot of time to do this, or like this step doesn't pass QC some of the time. So those are the steps maybe to like focus on automating, or you could use that data for other business purposes like estimating, that sort of thing. Yeah, once you get enough data aggregated.
Or driving home the value of your tool. Like I use Loom quite a bit for like sending videos. They send me a report every week or every month that says, hey, you saved 2 meetings this week, or like 2 hours of time or 4 hours of time or whatever it is. So
yeah, we did look at some of the data recently with one of our customers who's using TaskOS, and they're a pretty big clothing company, but in the 5.5 months they've been running it, they have saved 240 something person days worth of labor.
Days.
That's crazy.
Like 24-hour chunks too, not just work days. Maybe I need to have a better way of talking about that statistic, but like it's kind of mind-blowing, isn't it? Like that's
yeah, I would have led with that on your website.
We're working on a new one. Yeah, if anybody's impressed by this, what I'm talking about, and they look at the website, they might be like, wait, what? But we've been focusing mostly on making the tech and a little bit less on the website, clearly.
All right.
Yeah, it's coming along though.
Yeah, that is an impressive metric, though. I mean, that speaks volumes about the value of automating things like that. I mean, I'm sure that's a fairly decent sized company to save, nearly a year in man hours. But I mean, it definitely does speak to how important it is, for sure, when you start cracking numbers like that.
Yeah. Like, this feels like a pretty good spot to like transition a little bit. Do we want to hit on like AI, Mike?
I'm happy to talk about it. It's also new that unless you're making it yourself, you can't really be an expert. But I've been playing with it every day, pretty much. So yeah, I can talk about it a little bit in a sort of a semi-educated manner.
Listen, like, how do you see AI affecting design, Brian? Over like let's like constrain it to like the next 2-3 years. Like I think we can all see where it goes long term, but like sign guys are like, we're short term focused. Like, how is this going to affect me over the next couple of years?
Right now, I think it's pretty powerful for quickly generating ideas. So, you could just think about it like, okay, well, like, what are some ideas I have? Think about it for a little while. Or you can go to MidJourney or DALL-E and throw in some prompts about what you want and have it generate, 30 different designs for you. And you might find something in there that like sparks the creative juices that you want to work off that. So I've done that with logo designs a little bit. Like you go to DALL-E and you type like letterpress, logo, bird, a bunch of keywords, whatever you're looking for, and it'll just spit a bunch of sometimes pretty interesting logo ideas out at you, which you can then turn into a proper logo using your design ability. That isn't really our focus, our job, but when we do run into something like that we need to do, it's a pretty fun tool. And then you can actually use some of these language models, which is AI that will you ask it a question and it'll answer the question, try to come up with a good human sounding answer to it. So you can say, hey, I need a logo for an ice cream shop or something like that. Please write a prompt for me in MidJourney. Here are some examples prompts in MidJourney. Please like copy these prompts. So prompt is like how you tell MidJourney what to make. So how do you please generate some prompts for me based on these examples? But it should be for an ice cream shop. And then it'll go ahead and like give you a whole bunch of prompts that you can then feed into MidJourney or DALL-E, where you can get a bunch of examples where you don't even have to think too hard about what you're even asking it to do. It's kind of crazy. Did you follow that at all? This might be a little hard to picture. Okay. But as far as like so I'm not like, I'm not super plugged into design like you are, Michael. So it's a little hard for me to predict exactly how things might go down, but I can tell you these tools are becoming scarily useful. I think the biggest threat, there isn't such a big threat to like vector designers. I think at the moment, I think the bigger threat is to people who make fine art. And I think they should be very, very scared like now.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that for sure. I think that it's a long way off. You get into, the technical aspects of design, especially like sign design or just, any sort of technical design, engineering, architecture, product design. I think it's like you said, the ideation side of it, making something looks pretty or coming up with really neat ideas. I mean, that's already here and it's only going to get better. Yeah. But I'm skeptical that 20, 30, 40 years down the line, when I'm long retired, it may reach this point, but I'm skeptical that in the near future it's ever going to be able to replace that technical vector CAD engineering side of design, because there's so much nuance to it that it can't be codified, I guess, for lack of a better term. It's very subjective in a way, and oftentimes there's only one right way to do something, but it's not necessarily the way that a book would tell you it has to be done. I mean, there's a lot of situational context that has to come into play.
So it's based on your experience,
right? There's a lot of experience that comes into play that I don't know that a machine could ever fully grasp. Does that make sense?
I think, yeah, it totally makes sense. To play devil's advocate a little bit, this is where machine learning might come in. So if you feed a computer program that does machine learning with machine learning, like TensorFlow is the name of it. But
hey, let's zoom out for just a minute. And
sorry, I'm not getting too.
Like, hey, no. Hey, like, what's like the fifth grader machine learning versus AI?
Oh, okay. So machine learning is a little more. It's a little more narrow.
Foxworthy show or something, and then like teach me like I'm a fifth grader or something.
So I have a pretty good definition for machine learning. AI is a little more nebulous, at least in my head. But machine learning is when you feed examples. When you feed a bunch of, there's a few ways to do it, and I don't want to sound like a professor here. So anyway, basically you feed a computer algorithm or a computer program that does machine learning a whole bunch of data that shows like, hey, this is how something should be done. It might be something that's very hard for a computer programmer to like write an algorithm to do, because there's just too many variables involved, and it's just something that a human like programmer wouldn't really be able to figure out, at least not efficiently. Right. So the machine learning though, programs will like look at all the data, and they will write algorithms that really aren't even comprehensible to us human programmers, that will then be able to produce that output, sometimes fairly reliably. And I'm not a machine learning expert. We've been exploring it a little bit with our product. So I've talked to some professors here about it who confuse me. So I'm now here to confuse you in a similar manner.
Yeah.
But it you can teach machines to do very human-like, very human-like choices. However, that's like one choice. It for like there's so many choices to be made for something like ADH or ADA compliant
ADA
signage.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the only way that in the near term that machine learning and AI are going to matter there is if you have a company that's specifically focusing on writing software for that purpose, and they train a bunch of machine learning algorithms how to do all the pieces and then put it together, which I'm not sure that's going to happen in the next couple of years because the niche is a little bit specific.
Yeah, it's not that expensive of a problem. Well, it's probably expensive to solve, but it's not that valuable of a problem to solve at this point.
That you can get many of the gains of the automation by just automating the what we've already talked about using TaskOS or any other template-based automation system there for exporting it. Yeah, so you don't even need to really do that, maybe, but I'm sure it's coming. It's just not like it's probably a little ways away because these tools are going to have to get easier to use, and the biggest thing is data is pretty hard to come by. So it's hard to train something if you don't have the data to train it, and that's really the problem most of these machine learning scientists run into when they're trying to create these algorithms.
I was thinking that in my head as you're talking through that. I was thinking, do I understand machine learning, and there's probably a lot of applications for it where the data exists, but I'm thinking in my little world of sign design, everything lives in everybody's head. There's very little hard and fast data that you could feed to
You need to talk to Tom and get like all the digitize all the back issues of Signcraft. Like that would be pretty interesting.
It'd be interesting to see if that could
talk about reviving what was once old and making it new again.
Man, robot sign painters.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be the kind of data you'd need for machine learning algorithms, so you're probably safe for a bit. You might be able to get like a language model to like talk like a sign maker though pretty easily using that data.
Yeah.
All right, I just want to try this. What do we tell ChatGPT? Like
let's write a poem about automation and sign design.
Let's write a poem about automation and sign design. In a world of automation where machines reign supreme, there's still a place for art and style where signs can catch our dreams. That's yeah. So this type of stuff is cool. Like I want to create what kind of signs do you have on the plate, Mike?
Let's see what it does with an ADA sign. I want to create an ADA compliant restroom sign.
Restroom sign. What's a prompt I can use to generate that? Oh. Hey, let's just take this piece. Yeah. All right. So I've got MidJourney here. Excuse like the Matrix rabbit stuff.
This is the worst user interface of any product I've ever seen in my entire life.
Indeed. Yeah.
Like everything scrolls by at 100 miles a minute. Like it's just crazy.
Oh no. I thought I had a subscription.
Are you out of credits? Shoot.
Probably. All right. Have you played with this, Mike? Oh gosh. Okay. This is not even going to be fun. I'm out of credits, I guess.
If you want, I can do a little screen recording of in my MidJourney. Send that to you guys afterwards. You can maybe plug that into the podcast.
Yeah, we could just drop it in. That'd be cool.
Okay. I haven't played around with MidJourney. I played around with a couple of the others, and but I haven't tried to get it to do anything super technical. I mean, a couple. Hey, I need some ideas for a monument sign type thing, just to see what comes out of it. And some of the ideas are really cool. All the the graphics and text are total gibberish. They're like they
Mhm.
look like weird, almost like Thai
The-
lettering or something. But
Yeah,
if
yeah. The lettering is kind of weird, isn't it?
if I
um,
wasn't busy with other stuff, I would set up an agency. Maybe there's somebody listening will do this because set up an agency that just fixes the fingers on otherwise fantastic MidJourney artwork. Just fix the fingers and the teeth, and like or remove the one thing in the background that doesn't belong. And you have a pretty you have an agency that's going to get a lot of work, I think.
that's hilarious.
Boom. Done. I love it. Cool. Well, let's wrap this one up. Brian, I appreciate you coming on, man. Before we jump, tell everybody how they can find you, where you want them to go, like which business do you want them to visit?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So if anybody wants to buy a printing company in the Chicago area, please let me know. But no, seriously, you can reach me at brian@artworkiq.com, and my other businesses, the URLs are www.impro.com, artworkiq.com, taskos.com, and then if you want to reach me on Twitter, it's at Brian Saetre, and you'll have to look up how to spell that. It's not very obvious.
Oh, I've been pronouncing it wrong the whole time.
Everybody does.
Saetre.
Yes,
Why didn't?
it's not.
Oh, dude,
It's
now I feel like an
it's not
asshole.
French. You mean you're not an expert in like
Ah.
1850s or 1890s Norwegian dialects from the Southwest? Really?
Unfortunately, no, but I want to be.
Terrible podcast host here.
Life goal. Yeah. What an ass. Well, I'm sorry, I've got it wrong. Brian Saetre. Saetre? Is that,
Did you
that
say
better?
did you say it wrong when you invited me on? I don't.
Yes.
Or when you introed
Yes.
me, I didn't even notice. I guess it just
probably
goes.
did. You got like the Brian Ryan thing going on too, though. So like anybody's around me, if they say Ryan or Brian, I'm just like, yeah, okay, yeah.
I was always in the class with a Brian and a Ryan in grade school. Like there's always like to just pack them together. Like this will be fun. This will add some humor to this class. Everybody answering at once or nobody answering. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Exactly. Well, we'll make sure we drop all the links here. Like, are you guys like selling TaskOS yet, or is it beta? Or are you doing demos?
It is. It's not really beta, but we're just bringing on customers very slowly and deliberately. But if you're interested, please go to our website and sign up for the list, and we will let you know when it's more generally available. And I believe we have a forum on the website where you can even describe what you'd like to do with it, which will help us sort of determine if it's a good fit or not for you.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's very interesting what you're doing with it. I look forward to like following along with the progress. Hopefully, like at some point we can help Mike automate and streamline his operation. It sounds like he needs
it sounds like
but
we have one especially good use case. Like that would be a fantastic use case for it, and I think you'd find the development costs would not be would be money well spent. I think.
cool.
Fascinating.
Excellent. Mike, any parting shots?
AI freaks me out, and I'm scared for my future.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this is really fascinating conversation. I appreciate you coming on.
I'm
sure.
glad I wasn't just a nervous wreck the whole time because I thought I might be. But yeah, you two are great podcast hosts. Very easy to talk to.
Well, good. Thank you. No, this was really cool.
We're good ramblers. Yeah, we get good at that.
Yeah,
but
we
no,
like to hear ourselves talk.
if this is a good conversation, definitely stay in touch and appreciate you coming on, Brian. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. So thanks for sticking around. That was an awesome conversation. I don't know how many tips that we gave, but let's sum this up and like try to distill everything that we talked about. Like, do you want to go first, Mike, or you want me to go?
I'm still processing a lot of it. No, I think it was a really fascinating conversation to talk to somebody who's kind of eyeball deep in the AI automation world like that and how it relates to graphics. And I'm my mind is like thinking of all these ways that this would make a lot of sign companies and wide format shops and designers like me more efficient. It's such a new concept though that it's really hard to really wrap your head around. And and understand. And I think there is like a legitimate fear there from people as well. I mean, for me, like I don't want my job to be automated where to the point where I'm useless. Nobody does. Like that's terrifying. But he made a good point that it's not going to come after and take people's jobs. It's just going to change the way they work. And and forward progress dictates that we have to adapt to that change, and that's a hard thing for humans to do. But I think if we're able to, some of this technology is going to make our lives a lot easier and make us all a lot more money. So I'm going to reluctantly embrace this technology.
Reluctant embrace. Sounds like a cologne.
I might be ushering in the apocalypse. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we're all like supporting this, even if we're like watching from the sidelines and like cheering it on, or like hopping in Chat GPT and typing dumb stuff in there, like sign poems, like
right. Yeah. No. Like the other day, I used Chat GPT. I just asked to create me a playlist of obscure 70s Vietnam era rock and roll that I'd never heard of. And like it came up with songs and bands that I had no idea existed. And I found some amazing music. So it's a really cool tool. I mean, I think it's just in its infancy, and as it grows and gets more mature, and as we as humans grow and get more mature along with it, I think we'll really find a balance or harmony there between it and, old school manual skills.
yeah. I like, you can't forget the other side though. Is like this thing, it got extremely popular. I'm talking about Chat GPT,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's what Brian was saying. Like, you got to have data to feed this thing, and
Mm-hmm.
like at this point, like we're just happily feeding this thing all the data because it's entertaining. But yeah,
we're feeding it utter bullshit.
yeah. So to me, it is a little scary at times, but yeah, we got to roll with it. Okay, like back to our like topic of streamlining the art department. I think we probably do like another episode of like structure and SOPs and things like that. I know you've got some thoughts on that. I think we've both tried to tackle like a guide on managing art files and dealing with customers and stuff like that. So I think that would be an interesting episode. But
I agree. I think we should do that. I mean, there's a lot of structural and process things that relate to the design department that really don't really even have anything to do necessarily with automation or AI or anything, but just, it's like any other department in your shop. You have processes for everything else. There should be some for art as well. And that's something that's, sorely overlooked in most shops.
I think the biggest takeaway for me today was and I heard you kind of say it, and I also heard like Brian dance around it a little bit as well, is just like design efficiency. I don't know, there's a way to combine them, right? The creativity side of it it's just inherently not efficient. So if you're trying to streamline your art department, you're trying to make your designers more efficient, take away the boring, stupid, mundane stuff that they have to do so they can focus more on the creative part of it. Like, you get them designing the sign, automate as much as you can of the output, the ripping, like, I don't know, ripping is the right word, but like output to different formats. Like if you've got Onyx, things like that, use the hot folders in Onyx. Those were some of my best friends, where you set up like a preset, drop your file in there, and it does like the imposition and everything for you. So I try to focus on as much of that stuff, which is just like tedious. Mistakes can occur anywhere in that chain. Like you forget to apply the proper color profile, like the output's going to be screwed up. But that's all stuff that computers are really great at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely, for sure. Embrace the technology.
Just don't feed it like your bank account information or any of that.
Yes.
Or guns. Don't give us guns.
Don't arm the computers, people. You want Terminators? Because that's how you get Terminators.
Yeah, cool. All right, let's wrap this one up. If you are interested in being a guest on the podcast, We love interesting stories. So shoot us an email, hey@bettersignshop.com. We are suckers for good stories. So check that out. Send us an email. If you are a sign shop owner, make sure you check out our Facebook group. You can find that somewhere down below this episode, or if you're listening, I don't know how you're going to find it if you're just listening, but it's in the description somewhere. And big thank you to our sponsor, GCI Digital, your large format provider, your large format wholesale print provider, your grand format print wholesale provider. These guys are awesome. They do customer service the way that grandmother used to make it. So if you want somebody who is willing to spend $5,000 on a flight to make sure that you've got your stuff on time, those are your guys. Check them out, printgci.com. Happy to have them as sponsors.
Yeah. TJ rocks. Great guys over there.
I think that's it.
That's it?
Send us
Sweet.
your nicknames. Mike needs nicknames.
Yay.
And that's a wrap. Mike, pleasure. I enjoyed it today.
As did I.
Keep doing the Mr. Rogers thing. Till next time.
If you liked this episode, make sure you hit subscribe to get all the latest episodes. And check out our website, bettersignshop.com. Get free resources and helpful tools on growing your shop. Thanks for listening.